Hello, Trinity Tigers, and happy Leap Day. Welcome to the first webinar of the Tiger Enrichment Lifelong Learning Series, a new service for our Trinity alumni. I am Leslie Hollingsworth, class of 1988, president of your Trinity University Alumni Association. It is my pleasure to introduce President Danny Anderson as he launches our Trinity Enrichment Series, sharing his thoughts and impressions of his first 8 months as Trinity's 19th president. Dr. Anderson assumed presidency in May of 2015 after serving as faculty member, administrator, and dean at the University of Kansas. Dr. Anderson is a native Texan and began his academic career in 1985 at the University of Texas at Austin. He received a Bachelor of Arts in Spanish from Austin College and a Master's and Doctorate in Spanish at the University of Kansas. An award-winning teacher, he has first-hand experience integrating experiential learning into his classroom and a deep appreciation for international awareness. Dr. Anderson is excited to lead Trinity University during this transformational period and will work to ensure Trinity is recognized as the model of 21st century liberal arts education. Through the discovery that occurs in Trinity experience, students grow and become the kind of leaders our world needs today. Danny and his wife Kimberly, a teacher, librarian, and community volunteer, are parents to 2 adult children and a dachshund named Willie. Please submit questions as you listen to Dr. Anderson along the right side of your screen. He will answer as many as time permits following his presentation. At the end, a short 2-question survey will be presented to you to answer. Ladies and gentlemen, President Anderson.
So Leslie, thank you so much for the introduction. It is truly exciting to be here. I've had a great time since I began on June 1, 2015. It's hard to believe it's been about 9 months. It's interesting, the Investiture Ceremony just took place this past week, and many people often wonder why it didn't take place closer to the time when I started. But actually this was the very first occasion in my second semester when it could have taken place. Edition of the Trinity magazine, if you will notice in my president's column at the very beginning, I talk about sitting around the kitchen table and the way that stories transmit wisdom. And I think it is not only learning to be connected with people, but there's a knowledge about an institution, about a way of seeing the world that comes through those short stories and the ways that they are told. So as I think about this, I want to share some pictures with you. When you look at this, this is a little bit my story about what it's like to come to Trinity. It was announced in December of 2014 that I had been selected as president, and if you look at the top left corner, this is the first event that I was able to attend at Trinity. It was important for me that it be the Martin Luther King Jr. March, which is a very big event in the city of San Antonio, but it's also an event that there's a real tradition of students participating in that march. My wife and I were able to be here and to join the students in that march, and I think it's a great legacy of the way that Trinity wants to participate in the city, that we are advocating for the kind of diversity that we associate with the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. It was just a wonderful way to, outside of the classroom, have some of my first conversations with Trinity students. If you look at the top right-hand corner, this is an example of one of the many students whom I'm able to talk to. This is Anthony Sanchez, better known as Scuba, and he is Mr. Spirit. He is the person who, at all of our soccer games, pulls out the spirit bell and rings it when we have a goal. He's at the football games, a remarkable student. He's also a Gates Millennium Scholar, which is providing him the opportunity to be studying abroad right now in Denmark, in Copenhagen. A wonderful example of the kind of students at Trinity. If you look at the lower left-hand corner, this is during the summer. I took advantage of there not being regular classes to try and meet with different informal groups. This is Dr. Adam Urbach's research group in chemistry, and these are the students who spent the summer working with him. During the summer, one of the things that Trinity has been able to do that is really exciting, with support from a Mellon Fellowship, we have many students who participate in individual research supervised by a Trinity faculty member. It's just a phenomenal program, and it was wonderful to hear those students talk about how that research experience was changing their view of what they may do in the future. And then if you look at the lower right-hand corner, this is another example of an event from the fall. This is the Rock and Roll Marathon. If you remember Stadium Hill right out in front of the campus, it's an uphill climb. And as the marathon runners come running up the hill, the tradition is that Trinity students stand alongside with funny signs and just trying to cheer them on so that they can run up that hill with a lot of energy. My wife and I are standing there with students, and we really enjoyed that morning. It was wonderful to stand there. I had people who would stop and come up to say hello. Sort of would surprise me, but it was a wonderful way to begin participating in Trinity traditions. This next set of images shifts gear a little bit, and it's looking at this fall. These are all pictures associated with what's called the inauguration of a new president. And I'm going to talk about them very briefly now, because I'll come back to why the inauguration was planned this way a little bit later in my comments. But in the top left, you can see me out participating in the day of service. The t-shirt says Trinity Gives Back, and one of the inaugural events was to gather faculty, staff, students, and alumni to go out and do service projects in the city of San Antonio. The San Antonio Express newspaper picked up this image and used the headline describing me as Trinity's new everyman because of my efforts to be out and about and connecting with people. If you look at that top row, the next two images are from an event that was created here at Trinity called the Great Trinity Experiment. In both images, I am participating in classes that are being led by Trinity students or Trinity alumni. It was a wonderful opportunity to sit and participate in learning as a student when the situation was flipped and we had our own students and our alumni in front of the classroom. The center image is from a class called Mobilizing Knowledge. It was about how to use big data and visualization techniques to get your message across. And the far right is a class about hand drumming, where we were learning techniques and rhythms. And if you look at the lower set of images, these are some of the more formal occasions. In the lower left, there is my wife and I. We are pictured with former President Ron Calgard and Jeannie Calgard. One of the things that I have truly appreciated is support from the entire Trinity community. Ron Calgard, as a former president, has been very supportive of me as I have sought to make connections and get to know people. And we also share a special connection in that he joined Trinity University coming from the University of Kansas. And I also joined Trinity University coming from the University of Kansas. So we always have a lot of things that we can talk about when we're together. The center image is from the Investiture Ceremony, and it's the moment when the mace and the university medallion were presented to me as the symbols of the authority that I have as president, but also reminders of my responsibility to use this in the service of our faculty, staff, and students, and of you as our alumni. And finally, it's a bit more of a personal photograph showing lighter side and joy after the investiture, standing with my wife. They're in front of the conversation with magic stones. And it's just a wonderful time to become a part of the Trinity community. I've got one more picture here. There are no words, but this is at the end of that day. And as I look at it, two thoughts come to mind for me. One, in my comments, my speech during the inauguration, I used the image of a conversation taking place at a threshold. And I was thinking, what it's like when you're standing at the doorway to a home, the place where you're going to reside, where you live. And I used that image to talk about my desire to have a very meaningful relationship with the Trinity community. And in a sense, that investiture was a symbolic threshold. And so one of the ways that I look at this picture is, I'm walking into the campus. I am crossing that threshold to move into the responsibilities that I have accepted in terms of serving the university. But also, I've spent a lot of time listening working to get to know Trinity, and I'm just really anxious. And there's a way that also it's a recognition that, you know, it's time to get to work. We're walking back to the office to begin doing things. And so what I want to share in my comments here are basically three ideas. I'm going to talk about what I hope that we can do together in terms of keeping momentum going as we're moving into the future. I'm also going to talk about my aspirations for recognition that we will have in terms of all that Trinity has accomplished. And then finally, I'm going to talk about connections, which I hope you are hearing is a key element of the things that I hope to promote as a president. Before I get to those points, just to give you a high-level overview, you know, Trinity is a small, principally an undergraduate university. We have some really remarkable graduate programs, and as you look at this, what you can tell is we would love to have about 2,400 undergraduates. We have just a little bit of capacity to add a few more students so that we would be at our optimal size. We're doing a really good job of maintaining a balance among our male and female students. Our graduate programs are going strong. We're also maintaining a fairly good balance there. We are able to retain 9 out of every 10 of our undergraduate students, which is an excellent performance in U.S. higher education. If you look at the diversity that we have, we're also doing well there. We have about 7.5% international students. We could probably go up to as many as 10%. We have about 35% underrepresented students, which is very good compared to many private schools. We always have room to improve on that, but I think a student coming is going to get a true experience of real diversity on the Trinity campus. We're able to maintain a really low student to faculty ratio. And as you look at that and think about those numbers, one of the things that I want to add in future infographics is information about what happens to our students. Within 6 months after graduation, about 75% of our students are employed full-time, or they are in the graduate program that they wanted to go into. We've got another 15% who report that they're working part-time, and many of them are still preparing to enter a graduate program, which is just a remarkable record of success. And we always score very high when you look at that. One other number that I think many of you may find interesting, in the past couple of years, we've had 100% acceptance to law school. And if you look at medical school, the national average for a university admittance to medical school is 43%. Last year, we had 78% acceptance rate, which is great. And then finally, looking at our tuition and fees, it costs almost $38,000 to attend Trinity, and room and board is a little bit more than $12,000. If you round that out, we're looking at right at $50,000. It's important to note that about 93% of our students receive some kind of assistance to be able to attend Trinity. And one of the things that I am deeply grateful for is the incredible generosity of previous generations of making it possible for us to provide those kinds of scholarships for students. It's truly remarkable. So one of the first topics is thinking about momentum. I've arrived at Trinity. We're in the 3rd year of a 10-year strategic plan called Trinity Tomorrow. And I would say that one of the things that I want everyone to know, and I state this in every context, every venue where I'm able to speak, as a new president, I am committed to ensuring the success of the strategic plan, Trinity Tomorrow. Our faculty worked hard on it. It is a great plan that is looking at true education, ways that we can promote the passion for our students, ensure that they are able to reinvent themselves in the ways that they need to be able to do to be successful in the 21st century. And if you think about features that our plan promotes, it uses the focus on learning to emphasize how Trinity is a community of discovery and growth. I like this image right here because it shows, students, faculty member outside the classroom, looking at ways that we're trying to use experiential learning and stretch the places and the ways that students learn. One of the things that is unique about Trinity and that we're using in the strategic plan is that we have incredible resources from the time a student begins at Trinity as a first year, they are often able to do things that only seniors or even graduate students at much larger schools are able to do. And we're able to do that because of our resources. So one of the ways that I think about this is that we have large school resources with that incredible small school environment, which is one of the ways that we really think about optimizing learning through our strategic plan. I like this image. You know, it reminds me of the fact that about a third of our students play on athletics, but beyond that level of participation, the metaphor of what it means to be a member of a team is something that really has stood out in my conversations with alumni and with students in terms of that sense of collaboration, teamwork, the ways that Trinity creates the experience of individuals working together in a very holistic way so that they leave here prepared to play different roles and to be successful leaders in our society. This image, you know, really is an interesting one. This is a group that went to the U.S.-Mexico border. They were out, once again, thinking about the experiential learning opportunities and the ways that Trinity expands the classroom. Our students are very engaged with the world, and I am proud of that. One of the things that you might find interesting is to think about our study abroad. In 2015, we had 516 students who graduated, and 195 of them had some kind of study abroad experience. That's 38%. You know, it'd be exciting if we could find ways to make it more affordable so that even more of our students could have that experience, but 40% is still a significant amount of our students who are able to go and participate in that. This next image reminds me of the idea at Trinity that I hear repeatedly of how academics are really the core, that rigor in terms of everything that goes on. It challenges our students, and at the same time, because of the close relationships with faculty and staff, students are pressed on and inspired to achieve more than they maybe even imagined that they could accomplish. So those are the kind of things that, as I look at the upcoming years and ensuring the success of our strategic plan, we want to keep momentum strong on all of those areas. Recognition is the second topic that I wanted to use to describe where we're going. One of my key roles as a president is to be the person who proudly tells the Trinity story in many different contexts. I know that there is one ranking out there that's called the Hidden Gem, and we're on it, and I hope that we never get on that ranking again. I don't want to be a hidden gem. I want much greater recognition. I'm very proud of the fact that for 24 consecutive years, we have been #1 in the West. This is a category of universities that are small, and yet we offer a limited number of master's degrees, and so that fits us in terms of the breadth of all that we have. Probably one of the ways that we stand out is that we are stronger than all of the other institutions in that group because of our deep commitment to the liberal arts and the way that that infuses everything that students get through their varieties of experiences at Trinity. And if you look at this, these are U.S. News and World Report rankings. They also rank us because of great value, great price. They look at our strong commitment to undergraduate teaching. And I can tell you, we also follow the #2 university, and they're working really hard to bump us out of #1. And they're nipping at our heels, so we can't take for granted this #1 position. There are many other rankings, and I want to mention a few of them. I could just go into all kinds of detail, but Princeton Review ranks us among the very best universities for undergraduate education. The Princeton Review also ranked us in 2016 as being #5 in the country for best science lab facilities. Forbes in 2015 included us among the U.S. top colleges and ranked us #8 as America's most entrepreneurial colleges. One of the other ones that stands out, Fisk Guide to Colleges, they picked the 22 best public and 22 best private colleges and universities in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K., and they include us in that group. So they're just a wide range of rankings that continually point out the remarkable value, the remarkable quality associated with the Trinity experience. In this next slide, what I want to do is I have spent time talking with Trinity alumni, with Trinity faculty and students, and I've been trying to hone 3 key points that I could use to think about how can I sharpen the concept of our identity? How can I refine the understanding of what I need to protect as a new president? And I want to share those ideas with you. One of them is that Trinity stands out because of our integrated educational opportunities. And I'm thinking here about the remarkable way that we can balance liberal education with the incredible depth and strength we have in professional education, our engineering science program, the business school programs, and also the education programs. That balance really sets us apart from many universities of our size. The other thing that students talk about is our actual campus, the intentional spaces that were designed for discovery and growth. I had an opportunity recently to have a lunch with a group of architects who all had some kind of personal tie to O'Neill Ford, who designed our campus, which was built beginning in 1952. And they talked about the way that the construction of our campus promoted the sense of intimate spaces that helped create close personal ties among people. And as I talked with alumni, and I know I have said this in many different occasions, but the way that people will remind me of the sound of the bells ringing in Murchison Tower, or the vision of the sunlight on red bricks on our campus, or even right now we've got the early blossoming mountain laurels, the smell of what it means to stand on our campus. Everyone feels truly connected to this space. And one of the exciting things that we're doing right now is developing a campus master plan. How do we protect and plan for the future of this space? And how do we leverage this remarkable asset for even greater recognition? The third theme that really stands out as an anchor for me is everyone talks about their intensely individual experience in working with faculty and with staff. And I think this is important not only in terms of it being a hallmark of the Trinity experience, but if you study some of the recent literature about higher education, the Wabash National Study of Liberal Arts Education really pointed out that successful schools all point toward the importance of a very close personal relationship with a mentor. And there's a more recent study called the Gallup-Purdue Index that looks at successful lives, and they've surveyed an incredible number of people after school, and there's a high correlation of individuals who have rewarding careers, rewarding lives, and they link that back to having had a deeply engaged and meaningful relationship with an adult mentor when they were a university student. So these are things that Trinity is doing. We're doing well, and I think it's very important as we think about identity and recognition that we make certain that we keep them strong. The third area that I want to talk about is connections. And just to give you an overview, I've spent a lot of time on campus connecting with groups. I've met with every department and program. I've been to a lot of both formal and impromptu meetings with groups of students or individual students. I'm trying to be very visible in the city of San Antonio. I'm a member of the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce. I serve on a board for the P16 Plus Council looking at educational topics in the city. I'm serving on the East Point Coordinating Council, which is looking at the ways that we are thinking about some of the development issues occurring in some of our community neighborhoods. And I've been a member of the Foreign Affairs Council. I'm just looking at ways that I can participate on these groups so that I can have the right arenas to connect with other partners in the city and have places where I can share the Trinity story. But also I've been trying to connect with alumni groups. I hope that some of you who have tuned in are part of the 11 alumni chapters that I've already visited in the fall. And if you look ahead, you'll know that this springtime there are 11 more chapters that I will be visiting. One of the persons who is instrumental And helping make this happen is the new Vice President for Alumni Relations and Development, Michael Bacon. He is also a Trinity alum, and he has been on the road with me helping make these connections and helping me try to learn what are some of the concerns of our alumni chapters, what are ways that we can reach out and include you more effectively in the life of campus, even when you are away. And I've had just wonderful opportunities to hear stories. Just to give you an example, it's really amazing to visit Nashville and realize that probably about half of the graduate students in engineering at Vanderbilt are all from Trinity University. There's just a real pipeline, and it is a remarkable program, and we are really providing leadership in a graduate program like that. Or to be in a place like Washington, D.C., and to talk with our various alumni who have spent time participating in all kinds of public policy initiatives in the federal government. The breadth of the things that our Trinity alumni are doing is just remarkable, and the stories that I hear are really, really inspiring. One that I enjoy from an alumna who is here in the state of Texas told me about what it was like to pack up all of the Trinity University property and help move it to the Skyline campus when we moved here in 1952. Or I've talked with women who have described what it was like to be required to dress and to stand behind your place to wait for grace to be said before a meal was scheduled when you had dining service during the early years of the Skyline campus. So there's just a wonderful legacy of traditions that I am learning about. I'm going to share this slide just to make a point. I love being recognized. It's flattering to come in as a new president. And the Inauguration Planning Committee was phenomenal. They were an incredible group to work with. But one of my requests was please make the inauguration less about me and more about us as a community. So I feel flattered to be the occasion for an event that celebrates what Trinity can be as a community. And one of the ways that we did this is that they proposed the idea of having a day of service on Saturday, February 13th at 7 a.m. in Webster Gym. There were 500 students, faculty, staff, alumni, family members, 7 a.m., if you can imagine all the sleepy-eyed students who were there for a taco breakfast. And we all went out at 8 a.m. to contribute service to 12 different agencies, schools, and parks around the city of San Antonio. It was just a remarkable way to show our connection to the city. It was a remarkable show of community among the Trinity family. And I feel like it was a great way to think about what we want to be as a university. The second event that the Inauguration Committee developed, I had said, if you want, we could do a traditional academic symposium, but let's make it about liberal arts or some of the ways that we are doing something unique at Trinity. And they came back and said, let's take it a step further. Let's flip the idea of what an academic conference is going to be, and let's have our student and our alumni take over the classroom. So they went through a process of opening for proposals. They went through a vetting process, and then we had a group of 24 teams of faculty, of alumni and students who led classrooms on Thursday afternoon, February 18th. And it was great. I showed you some pictures earlier of my sitting in a class about using big data, another showing my participating in a drumming class. Sitting in a classroom, sitting alongside trustees, alongside alumni, alongside other faculty members, alongside students, it really was a great example of the inspiring learning that we want to see as one of the hallmarks of what Trinity University stands for. And if you are interested in seeing a little bit more, I would invite you, I will send out an email later on with this link and some of the follow-ups so you don't have to copy this down, but at bit.ly/inauguration videos, we put together a playlist that could give you a flavor of all of this. And two things that are there that I encourage you to really look at. There is a slideshow that was used as people were entering and having dinner during the inauguration dinner that shows images of Trinity present and past. And it's a great way to get a sense of the breadth of everything that we stand for. And in addition, there is a video that is narrated by one of our students, Taylor Mobley, that talks you through some of the memory lane experiences in those images. And they're both a part of that, in addition to being able to listen to our new fight song and see some other information. So one of the things, here we are doing our first webinar. This is a new experience for us. We will look forward to feedback from you, but this is an effort to be connected with you. One of the things that you could do is connect with me. If you are a Twitter user, you can follow me using @TU_president19. If you are an alumnus and you don't know what in the world that is about, just type in that @TU_president19 in a web browser, and it will take you to my Twitter account, and you can see the way that I try to capture images, thoughts, reflections about things going on at Trinity as I have begun to connect with the campus. So in closing, I just want to remind you as you look at us, everything that you see on material about Trinity University uses the phrases discover, grow, become. These are the key words that we use to state our mission. We are a transformational liberal arts and sciences university. Our goal is to ensure that our students are able to discover the remarkable range of opportunities await them. They make some choices so that they can grow in areas where they are making decisions about how they want to lead their lives. And when they leave, they have become the person who can really go out and be successful with the Trinity experience that has prepared them to face the future. So, thank you for joining us. Please think about ways that you can talk publicly, share with others your story, show your Tiger pride, deepen your connection with us. That is what this day is about. So, thank you very much for the time that you have spent participating in this webinar. I'm going to shift back to moderation by Leslie Hollingsworth. She is going to read questions that you may have been sharing with me. So I will await and see what the next step is here.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. And we do have some great questions from our guests today listening in. And so our first one is, what kind of impact, if any, are online universities having on Trinity?
So when you think about online, couple of points. If a student takes a course away from Trinity and they transfer it back, we don't really know whether that course is taught in a classroom or if it is taught online. And that is ethically, if a university that is accredited is teaching, then we have to evaluate on the basis of the course. So we may be accepting some courses that are taught online. A second point about this is that at Trinity we are looking at ways that we want to use technology to make what we do in the classroom more effective. Some faculty members are more excited or more interested in doing that than others, but I think we need to be a part of the world that is using technology. But I think it would be a misstatement of what our goal is to give the idea that you could get the Trinity experience by staying at home and taking a Trinity class online. We will use technology more to try and reach out to alumni, but some of those core values, talking about what happens when you are on our campus, when you're having those close relationships with peers and faculty, the thing that makes us unique cannot be conveyed through the online media.
All right, thank you. Another question is, our campus is beautiful and makes clear the powerful growth that's happened lately. What is the plan to rectify some pretty significant differences between the impressive new structures versus those in dire need of attention?
We're working hard. I think one of the questions is for everyone to think about the way that there are various steps involved in being able to address all of the needs on a campus. We just were able to open a couple of years ago the Center for Science and Innovation, and it's been very successful at making everyone want to be invited and enter into that space. So it means that every building that is not like that is now elevated in the perception that we also want to accomplish some of that kind of renovation to do that. We're in a process right now of having conversations with faculty members that are in some of the buildings that are next up for different kinds of renovation, Chapman Center, Halsall, to identify what are the activities that they do. You do not design a renovation or a space based on ownership. You design space to promote connection, to make activities happen. And that activity has been underway for several months now. And as we're able to get to the end of that, we go into some of the next steps where we will work with architects to think about how could those aspirations be turned into different spaces. And that leads us to looking at plans. So then I could do one of the things that I look forward to, going out to tell the story so that our alumni can think about ways that they could invest in helping us carry out those kinds of activities in those new spaces. One of the things that the question talks about is most need. I think that is perhaps one of the most unsuccessful ways to think about what you are doing on a campus. It is by sharpening our story of the ways that we will be successful and the ways that we will use spaces in new ways that we can really generate excitement about Trinity. There is an interesting detail about our campus that specific buildings are one thing. Looking at a campus master plan, we're in the process of looking at what are the implications, because we have a historic campus designed by O'Neill Ford, for understanding how that both creates opportunities for us, but it also will set different kinds of limits around the nature of the changes that we make, because we are custodians to the legacy that was established by that space. So, it is very much a conversation that is moving along as fast as we can make it happen.
Thank you. Now, thank you for sharing the current tuition and room and board. And the question on the table is, what percentage of students receive some sort of financial aid?
93% of our students receive some kind of financial aid. Some of that may be merit aid provided by Trinity as a competitive merit-based scholarship. Some of that total may be students who qualify for different kinds of need-based financial aid. But we are providing a remarkable amount of support for our students, and that is one of the reasons that we always rank so high as being of best value, because we make Trinity accessible to a truly wide-ranging group of students.
Thank you. Can you comment on how Trinity might respond to a situation similar to the confrontation at Yale last fall between professors and students?
So I would say one of the things that, it's my approach to working with any kind of conflict would be we are best served by pulling people together, by being close to talk. One of the things that I have really enjoyed about Trinity is that there is a deep commitment to genuine dialogue. I've had alumni who have talked about the way that part of their experience of Trinity is that they are surprised to be out in society today when we have so much polarization, and individuals who disagree with each other quickly move to positions of dislike or disrespect. And their experience, what they gained from Trinity, was the ability to listen deeply to their peers, to recognize that individuals often have very different points of view, and that it is through a deep engagement in listening and understanding that we are able to come up with new solutions and ideas. Often as a president, if I am dealing with a situation where there are different points of view, we ultimately must make decisions. We have to go forward and lead and be successful. But there is an immense value in that opportunity of generous listening to each other, to realize that sometimes we are mistaken in believing that there are only two options. As we understand the motivations, the aspirations, the dreams the different groups have, we are often able to be far more creative in thinking about ways that we can move forward.
Thank you. All right, our last question is about studying abroad, which you spoke about briefly. So currently financial aid is offered to Trinity students and can be applied to study abroad programs. However, one of our constituents has heard from his current student that Trinity may have plans to change that model. Is that in fact the case? And under your leadership, Dr. Anderson, how will Trinity encourage and support students wishing to study abroad?
Actually, that question, that decision had already been made, and I agree with that decision. One of the things that was not working for Trinity is looking at the amount of financial aid meant to support our university mission that is actually just leaving the university and not being tracked in a way that would help ensure that we're achieving our goals. So for students, one of the things that we have done is try to improve the communication process so that students would be aware that they can't simply take Trinity financial aid scholarships for Trinity and just use it anywhere they want. What we have done, one part of the strategic plan is that we have established this year 3 centers. One is focusing on student success. A second one is focusing on experiential learning and career success. And a third one is focusing on international engagement. This is a way to try and build greater critical mass among all of the different offices, academic units, programs that are involved with everything international at Trinity. And one of the projects is to ask, can we rethink some of the ways that we're approaching study abroad? Are there ways that by redeploying some of our resources, we might have a better way to create more cost-effective study abroad programs that may be led by Trinity faculty, and it might make it easier for even more students to go and study abroad and use those Trinity funds far more effectively? Or are we in a position to explore different kinds of partnerships with other institutions that might achieve the same kind of a goal? But the idea is, can we step back and think about the goals we want to accomplish, and then under the leadership of the Center for International Engagement, come up with some new solutions? Because we live in a remarkably global world, a very interconnected world. We do not want fewer students to go and study abroad. We want to find ways to help more students go and study abroad. And we think that by reassessing the way that we're using our resources, we can move toward that goal.
Thank you. Okay, so that is all the time we have today for our questions, and I want to thank Dr. Anderson for your insightful State of the University update and time this morning. And I also want to thank all the alumni who participated in our very first Tiger Enrichment Lifelong Learning Series. Discover, grow, become. With this new webinar series, we as alumni have the opportunity to continue with our lifelong learning, as well as stay connected to Trinity. Our next webinar is scheduled for April 28th with political science professor David Crocker, where he'll be handicapping the 2016 presidential race. So you know that should be very, very interesting. Be sure to fill out the short survey and go Tigers. Thank you very much.